All right, you angry southern mob. It's time to dust off your starter jackets, rip off those tearaways, and blow into your game cartridges. I'm Sam Blanford.
I'm Pat Sellers.
And I'm Sean Kelly. And we wish it was the 90s. I thought I had you pegged, Sam. I thought you were going to call our listeners goose steppers.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
That was a good line. Ooh.
Ew, and
got it
old
written
soldiers. Meg calls the Nazis goose steppers about 5 times.
Shows how much I was paying attention in the old soldiers. No, the only one I was thinking was the Howling Commanders.
Good cameo from the Howling Commanders. Anyway, welcome back to our final, or is it, episode of X-Men, the animated series, where we'll be discussing briefly Jubilee's Fairytale Theatre, Old Soldiers, Hidden Agendas, Descent, and Graduation. We might look to breeze through them to get to our thoughts on the series as a whole. And I say, or is it? I'll save that for the end, Sam. I've got some good news for you. Before we dive straight in, feel free to give us a follow on the socials at WIWT90S on Twitter and on Instagram. We've got a Facebook page that doesn't do anything. I'm considering changing it to more of a just more like the other socials, just posting things. Less of a group, more of a just this is us. But yeah, and feel free to give us a review on your podcast server of choice. All we care about is the stars. 5 stars would be great. Leave a comment, mug us off. We don't care. If you're listening and you know someone who might want to listen, or someone needs something to fall asleep, recommend.
Yes, please.
Tell you what, in terms of the quality of this podcast, I'm halfway through our most recent episode, The Castle, which I wasn't on, and that's some good content. If you're tuning into this one and you haven't listened to The Castle, go back, listen. It's real good. Even if you haven't seen it, maybe watch it first. It's an Australian film. Maybe not. I don't know, but it's a good episode. Right.
Let's crack on.
Jubilee's
Let's be honest, we're the only
Fairytale.
ones listening to this.
Yeah, we know that. That was
hold
basically
on,
an ad for us.
I don't know enough people that live in America for that to be our second biggest market and for that to just be our friends.
Mm.
VPN, maybe?
Pardon?
VPN?
I'm not going to waste my time with a VPN. Anyway, Jubilee's Fairytale Theatre. I wrote a note before I started watching it. Without opening this episode, I remember that it's my least favourite episode of the series.
Let's fucking whip through this.
Okay.
In total, out of every episode, this is your most hated one.
As I recall it. Now I'm not so sure. Still didn't really like it, but I kind of I was okay with it.
Yeah. Thought it was going to be worse once it opened up. Anyway.
Yeah. So what happens is Professor X gets Jubilee to lead a group of school children on a tour of the caves that are underneath the mansion. First time we've seen those. Clearly very unstable because they get caught in a cave-in. It just seems right from the outset that this is not a safe place for a school field trip. And so the water in the cave rises. She's kind of having to save them and keep them calm. So she tells them she spins them a yarn about a medieval fairy tale of knights, princesses, trolls, and dragons. Some of these characters might even resemble the actual X-Men.
Oh dear.
It's another classic case of which voice actors were available and which weren't, because Cyclops and Jean are referenced as like a knight and a princess, but they aren't actually in it at all.
Are they right at the end, but it's a weird voice, potentially?
Well, speaking of weird voices, did anyone else notice that Gambit's voice has completely changed?
Yeah, that was... although, was it just for this episode? I didn't feel like it was for later ones.
It's definitely different in Graduation. I can't remember if he really features in any of the other ones. Um, anyway, there's also a blonde guy who pops up who's like a civilian. I was like, he's got a mullet. I was like, is that supposed to be a long shot?
I thought it was long shot, yeah. But then he gets beaten up pretty quickly.
But it kind of makes sense because Jubilee had a thing for him.
There you go.
Well, the only thing, and I don't even remember who says it. Oh, it must be Magneto. I mean, whoever Magneto is supposed to be in this thing. Oh no, it's Sabretooth. It's definitely Sabretooth. Surrender the crystal, and I promise your destruction will be painless.
Meow.
I don't know if you guys have anything else to say about this, but I've got a question for you, Sam, as a teacher who's been on a field trip or two.
Mate, the Rams were not done on this.
Do you think in a life-threatening situation on a field trip that telling a fairy tale to the kids would keep them calm?
Depending on the age. Like, I've been in a lockdown situation with a bunch of 6-year-olds, and like there was a bomb threat, and we were literally all in the corner of a room, and I was reading them stories that I could get my hands on from the corner of the room, and then I ran out of stories, so I just was telling them stories, and it was fine.
You're a good man.
It was fine.
It's great work.
Yeah. No, I don't think it would work. Especially these kids look pretty old too.
Yeah, maybe think, how old is Jubilee at this point? Because she seems to be leading a bunch of kids that she was previously the same age as.
Why the fuck are the X-Men taking guided tours of the caves underneath? Like
their secret base where they run a paramilitary group out of.
That's on brand, though. That's on brand for Chuck. You know, putting kids in
is.
danger constantly.
The only thing Meg got mugged off in the story with his character.
Yeah,
like the ogre or whoever it was.
Mm.
Did you think it seemed a bit Wizard of Ozzy, the story that she was telling?
It's a little bit of that, a little bit Lord of the Ringsy.
Like,
it was a bit Robin Hood-esque as well.
Yeah.
When Jean spoke at the end, yeah, it was Robin Hoodie at the start. At the end, when Jean spoke, she sounded like the Nice Witch, like exactly the same as that Nice Witch.
Yeah, it's true.
X resembled the talking head, the Great Oz.
Yeah.
And at the end, when she's like trots off into the horizon, it's like she's got the Lion and Tin Man with her.
Yeah. Plagiarism at its
spotting.
best. Plagiarism at its best. I guess as well, though, in defense of the writers, if they were really putting themselves in the shoes of Jubilee, she's going to steal a story.
Yeah, well, I mean, she does that. She makes herself a pretty mint character. Like, she gives me a bit of Matt Damon vibes in Good Will Hunting. Like, wrote the story and just like made himself the center of it, and like, I'm amazing. This is my character.
She still sucks in her own story.
Yeah.
She was the hero, though.
Should we get moving on?
Yeah, boy.
Now, I have fond memories of Old Soldiers, but I fell asleep.
I was real confused.
So Wolverine's having a flashback to his World War II days, which I'm going to come back to in a minute, and teamed up with Captain America. And Wolverine and Cap have to break into a Nazi base to rescue a kidnapped scientist, Andre Cocteau, and end up fighting the Red Skull.
The Red Skull's mint.
Red Skull is mint. The interesting thing about Red Skull in comic book lore is that because he's mint, they keep trying to find ways to bring him back, even though he's a World War II villain. And so it loses every time. It loses. You know, you can do good stories with it, but every time it just loses a little bit compared to, you know, how mint it is for them to be, you know, sworn enemies during World War II. But yeah, it's an alright episode. Although I was a bit chafed at the end when Wolverine finds out the truth about Cocteau, and he wasn't a double agent, he was actually a triple agent or whatever, and so to honour him, he defaces his tombstone.
Yeah, that was weird. It was all very confusing. I was fizzing for this off the little thumbnail on Disney Plus when you got Captain America there, and it opens quite good and funny where he's got the old boys that he obviously served with at the graveyard looking at another grave, and they come over and he's immediately aggressive to them, and as they walk away he's like got sad face. He's like, but I'd love to go to the bistro with you. He makes a few 180s in this, and it's really weird.
There's a couple of things that I was really intrigued by. Obviously, we've discussed this before about how in the comic books his claws are part of his body, but when the series came out, that hadn't been established. But by the time this episode comes out, I'm pretty sure it has. But they've had to obviously run with the line that they've gone from the Weapon X episodes or whatever, that the claws are given to him. But they really ham-fist in how much he likes those rock climbing claws.
They would not be helpful to climb a rock face. It's like he's not given Cap any advantage of getting up this cliff face with these ridiculous claws.
The other thing
but Cap's stoked with them.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask is, did we not spend several episodes establishing that Meg can't remember his past? And he's got vivid memories of World War II.
Have I watched all these 76 episodes?
I'd like to think so.
Why is Captain America in this episode?
Because
what the fuck? This is X-Men.
X-Men are part of the Marvel Universe.
But there's been any other crossovers whatsoever.
There's been like hints. Like I think we got a glimpse of Doctor Strange. We got an image of Spider-Man shooting his webs. Maybe it was a shadow or something.
Yeah, there was some others.
So question.
Yeah.
These last two episodes, it feels like they've been doing some different things. They've been trying different things in season 5, possibly because they were going to get cancelled. But are these two both comics? Based off comics, anyway?
Jubilee's Fairytale Theatre is no comic I've read. It might be out there, but I
won't be hunting it down.
No, I've never come across that. And I've read a pretty good chunk of 90s, because Jubilee only comes in the 90s, maybe late 80s at best. I would have read most of her 90s appearances because I've read nearly every X-Men comic from the 90s, and I also read all of Generation X Volume 1, which is like 95 to 99 or something like that.
But is she Kitty Pryde in the comics?
No, Kitty Pryde's... Jubilee and Kitty Pryde exist in the comics. Kitty Pryde was like the teen kid of the 80s.
It just seems both these episodes seems that they would read really. It would be really hard to make them as comics.
I'd be interested because there's definitely an established history of Wolverine as fighting in many wars because he's so old. But I'd be interested to know if they had established a link to Captain America at this point, or if the cartoon is actually trend setting there. Because the Howling Commandos is definitely something that they were like around in like the 50s maybe. Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos.
I was going to start calling you Pinky Pinkerton.
Oh, I'll start calling you Dum Dum Dugan.
Yeah, it's the other name I've got down here.
He's done research. He's come with research, even though he missed all the times that they called the enemy goose steppers, like Uncle Adolf's goose stepping goons.
Yeah, there's that part where he goes, Uncle Adolf's goose stepping goons had the place sealed.
That was good, Bob. it kind of annoys me that he likes Captain America. Meg likes Captain America, but hates Cyclops. Because they seem like the same, pretty much the same person.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but I did think about the similarity between Cap and Cyclops.
Like at one point, he's like, "I really like you," or something weird like that.
Maybe the difference is Cap instantly because Wolverine's already been quite meggy, but Cap just like gets on with the job with him, whereas One Eye is always hounding him.
Yeah, he's always complaining about something.
The only other quote I wrote down is when Cap says something to Meg about how if I could just get to my shield, would be out of here. And Meg goes, "Oh, is that all? No sweat. I've had a harder time opening cans of tuna, pal. Better get ready, glory boy."
Those contraptions they've been captured inside of, those like torture devices, are ridiculous as well.
I know this is a kid's cartoon, but I don't know if Captain America is Red Skull's arch nemesis. Why didn't he destroy him on the spot?
They took care of the big bad at the end, like that big robot, very comfortably. Like it got built up to like this guy's invention. It was this giant red robot, and it was like, okay, now he's dead. We just bought him. He shot bullets at us and missed, and then we just ripped him apart.
Sam, I think you need to lift your podcast background. I'm looking over there at Pat. I can see all his pop heads sitting on his floating shells over there. We got Superman sitting behind me, and you've got curtains, mate. You need some nerd culture.
My house app isn't big enough, mate.
You want to borrow my Dr. Doom?
Don't out my pop collection.
I got to purchase a Meg character of some description, action figure.
I saw the other day, and it's a weird play to make because it was like me and Pat were at the movies the other night, and there's a guy wearing an X-Men t-shirt.
You went to the movies without me?
Did you really want to go and see Ant-Man and Wasp Woman?
Definitely not. Even though I've never met Pat in real life.
Yeah, that's true.
But there was a guy going to, and he had a matching X-Men t-shirt and X-Men cap, and I'm an X-Men nerd.
Did you tell him about the podcast?
No, I mugged him off.
No, it's your in.
To Pat and Alice. I said that's like wearing your Hornets jersey and your Hornets starter cap.
I can't believe
he was really hanging out for an X-Men cameo in that movie. He would have.
What I was going to say is,
cried himself to sleep.
I can't remember what shoe brand it is, but it's like a reputable shoe brand, like a Converse or a Nike, or have released, I think like 3 or 4 different X-Men themed shoes, and there's a Meg one for you.
I'm down for that.
Hopefully they're Jordan-esque. I'd love a pair of like Air Jordans, but with an X-Men theme.
Although if I wore them to the movies, would you mug me off?
We'll be giving them away to our 1,000th viewer of this episode.
Yeah, we will.
We'll be here for fucking ever. All right, hidden agendas.
Yeah, hidden agenda. Pat, before we talk anything about it, is this your favourite episode?
It's hard to say. It'd be up there, but it's only up there because of the main character being Sam Guthrie Cannonball, who I'm a massive fan of. I was a massive fan of him as a kid because I was a blonde kid, and I thought I kind of looked like Cannonball mostly from like X-Men Evolution and the 90s comics because he was blonde rather than, he's got like a flat top, Ranger haircut and massive wingnut ears in this, but he looked quite mint.
Yeah,
I thought I looked like him, even though I had
both the Guthrie kids had brown hair in this, and the comics they're both like ridiculously blonde.
Yeah, I thought I looked like him, even though I had an undercut and massive buck teeth.
Cannonball came around in the 80s with the New Mutants, but in the mid 90s he became part of the X-Men for the first time. I reckon that's probably around the time that me and Pat were reading X-Men briefly.
Yeah.
Before I went back as an adult because I'm an idiot. Anyway, so what happens this, right? So Sam Guthrie's parents have contacted Chuck about their son's mutant powers. Rogue goes back because it's it's in the south and she's from the south, and I think initially she gets a bit like, Sam's a bit of a town hero, so I guess she's a bit jealous because that's the life she never got. But things turn on the young cannonball, and there's some evil intent afoot. And Mr. Kirkland seems particularly evil, and Rogue has to help out, and there's all sorts of shit goes down. The army's certainly not there to help, and Cannonball at the end, even though his family has to move from the town, Cannonball just decides to stick it out with his family. Did I miss anything? Heaps of mine.
That's about it. Basically his powers, I guess. He can fly,
Cool
and
powers.
he's basically impenetrable when he flies. Yeah, he's got wicked powers.
Yeah.
They actually look quite good in this too. Even though
Yeah, they did. I thought
the
that as well.
majority of the animation's gone downhill a little bit at this point, but they still did a good
So
job.
when he's boosting, he's like bulletproof. Like he basically can't be stopped. Right? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
He's like invulnerable when he's cannonballing, but when he's not, he's just a normal bloke.
Yeah, that's why he's
It's
got
like
that
you
big
after
sort
a
of
few
glow
long
around him.
nights, Bob.
You to watch out for it.
He's got undeniably cool powers.
So you're a big fan, Pat. So is that the only thing he can do? Is because it seemed like he had lots more powers than that.
You can kind of use them in different ways. You can kind of shoot off bits of his power, but yeah, it's basically being a human cannonball in some ways, but with a little bit more control than I suppose an actual cannonball does. He doesn't need more powers than that.
I think it was Mr. Kirkland, not Kirkland, randomly.
Apologies.
Oh no, I thought it was Kirkland, and then I was like looking something up, and it said Kirkland.
Kirkland.
Yeah, like Kirkland.
Had they used Kirkland already, and they're like, we had to go back? I'll just change it to Kirkland.
His wrinkled face was suspicious from the start.
That's I've got Cannonball, and so his little sister Paige also becomes a X-Men character called Husk, whose power is disgusting. So her power is whatever the situation is, she can rip off her skin, and underneath her body will be formed with whatever it is to protect her in that situation.
Jeez.
And then once the situation's calmed, she could rip that off and go back to being normal.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, Husk's a good name.
Yeah.
Really? I think there's a whole bunch of kids, though, isn't there?
What?
He's got
the Guthrie
5
family is
brothers,
supposed to be huge.
Yeah.
Real Southerners. I also noted that there was a Superman reference in this episode. Can't remember what it was, but that happens. And
I reveled. I just reveled in the angry mob. That was great. He killed my marriage.
It kind of seemed like it was really getting back to its roots, and just like, the bigotry towards the mutants and the village. It was really getting back to its roots. The show here, it was good stuff.
My favorite quote was, "I heard you was making time with Shelley."
That was God at the diner.
So the only other thing I noted about this episode is there's at the end when the mob's mobbing and the X-Men turn up, the prof knocks everyone out with a psychic whatever, and they're all like frozen, or I can't even remember, but he like basically stops them in their tracks. And I'm just like, where the fuck was this in nearly every other battle that wasn't against a robot?
He's not in many though.
Maybe he should be.
Yeah.
Because if you can do that, you can walk into a room of people and just be like, sleep.
I figured it out.
What's that?
While the X-Men are fighting, he's taking children on guided tours.
Mm.
I was going to say not good for a wheelchair, but it's not a wheelchair, is it? It's a floaty chair.
Yeah. That's how he makes all his money. Got that floaty chair patent.
A floaty chair and tours.
Was
You know,
Unit
the Ministry
1,
of Education's forking out for that.
was Unit 1 mentioned at the end of this episode?
Couldn't say.
And it looked like the Hulk. They drop it down.
Oh, yeah.
I was
But
like,
it
is that the
wasn't.
Hulk?
What was that? Was that? No, it was like a mutant that they'd experimented on.
And it got destroyed like straight away.
Yeah. They did say it wasn't ready.
It really wasn't ready.
Anything else? Surely. Pat.
I was thinking it reinvigorated my like for Cannonball and go back and see where he is in the comics now. Is he in the current New Mutants?
Not really,
What?
because they're doing the younger New Mutants, but he's because he married a alien bird and lives out in
Shi'ar
space. Your mate's the Shi'ar, Sam.
Yeah.
Oh, they come back in fucking episode
They had-
10.
They had a kid, and that's meant to be ridiculously powerful, and then it's just never got written about again, as far as I know.
It's just like a
From, like,
it's just like a
timelines out.
toddler. But I did message this to Pat the other day. For the last 3 years in X-Men comics, they have a annual issue that's like it's a gala, and at the gala, all the mutants vote for who they think should be on the X-Men because Cyclops and Jean wanted a democracy against the Prof's wishes.
Fucking Cyclops.
But what Marvel Comics do is they put a list of mutants on their website, and you can go to it and vote for who you want to join the X-Men. And Cannonball was on the list. So despite me wanting to vote for Dazzler, because I just think she's got really cool powers, I voted for Cannonball for Pat.
Yeah, you oughta. Any
Did you
listeners
vote?
out there, go and vote for him. Yeah, I voted. He's got the best powers. What about Dazzler's powers? Well, I suppose her powers is being wicked good at music, right?
But doesn't she like turn sound into like light weapons?
Sparklies. Yeah.
Sorry, how old were you guys when you voted for this?
This was last week. To sense the next episode.
I stopped voting for things like that when I was 12.
Hey, me and Pat are true believers.
If they made us mail in for the votes, I would have been definitely mailing it in. It would have been way easier to get away with some fraudulent votes there.
Sam, I don't know if we've talked about this or not, but you will find this. I think you'll find this very interesting. In the Batman comics, you had the first Robin, who's Dick Grayson, and he later became Nightwing.
Dick Tracy.
So Dick Tracy. Anyway, if you want us to do a Dick Tracy episode, fucking let us know, because I'm up for it. And so they replaced him with a character called Jason Todd, but he was like a carbon copy. And so the fans didn't like it. They're like, why are you, like, you've already got Dick Grayson out there being Dick. Why have you, like, at least make your new Robin different? And so the backlash was real bad. For the record, in this period of time, backlash was only received in written letters to Marvel. And so...
Well, in this case, TC.
They said we're doing we're going to do a big Batman event, and we want the readers to decide the fate of the new Robin, Jason Todd. So they set up a phone line, and you would ring the phone line and vote for whether you wanted them to kill off Jason Todd or let him live. And the results were the Joker beat him up with a crowbar and he died.
He savagely beat him. It's quite full on. Like, I've got that comic.
They should. It's almost like calling in, early days of walkthroughs.
Yeah. I'd imagine this is It's weird
0900.
Yeah. Anyway, Descent.
Old-timey sinister story. This is great.
The only great thing about this is Charles Darwin.
Yeah, a bit of natural selection, don't mind it.
So
Features
in London,
Chuck's old man.
I think it must be like his great grandfather or something.
That's my question: is who is the relation of Chuck?
It'll be a direct line because they've got the same creepy eyebrows, but
and the same voice.
Yeah,
actor.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Professor
nice.
X voice actor is putting on a slightly British accent, or is he Australian?
A lot like Pyro.
So it's Victorian era England, and two scientists, Dr. James Xavier and Dr. Nathaniel Essex, hotly debate Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection. Essex believes mutants are the next genetic step forward and begins bizarre experiment involving mutant evolution. And he's got a sick wife that he loves, but he gets deep and stuck inside his experiments. What's interesting is he's right, but everyone mugs him off, which is ironic because Darwin's advice then was, people are going to mug you off, but don't stop what you're doing. And then he presents to Darwin, and Darwin's like, you're a fucking lunatic, mate. And Essex experiments on himself, instantly becoming pasty white. And
that's how he knew it was working.
It's basically a sinister origin story.
So like, I'm going to start fucking with my own genetics. Oh, I'm going light blue. Yep, this is going well. More of this.
Was this episode in fog, or was I just bleary-eyed watching it?
It was your classic London fog scene.
Little column A, little column B. There was some good Jack the Ripper from Hell type stuff going on.
Do you guys notice that at one point Sinister has a Peppy that is Jack the Ripper?
Yeah.
Has a what?
Peppy, minion.
Really?
Well, he calls him Jack, and
he's dressed like Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
He's skulking around like a sort of a From Hell scene at the start of the episode.
Oh, and he's like running through the streets.
No, but that was Sinister, wasn't it?
Right at the start? Right at the start it was that Jack the Ripper guy, wasn't it?
Oh, that was Jack the Ripper being loose because Sinister created Jack the Ripper.
Is Jack the Ripper also part of Marvel Comics?
I don't know. I don't know.
Essex wife, wow. Ripper.
This is
again. The microphone doesn't pick up whistles.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah.
What I liked about this episode is this is definitely from the comics. The only thing that's missing is that Sinister becomes Sinister not because he experiments on himself, but because he gets a visit from Apocalypse. And Apocalypse likes what he's doing and what offers him eternal life to blah, blah, blah in his mission. Rah, rah. And I was like watching this because I couldn't remember it because I've rewatched a lot of these episodes throughout my life, but I haven't dabbled much in season 5. And I was hoping for an Apocalypse appearance, but I'm happy with the version they went with. Certainly a lot of origin of the species and natural selection chat.
Yeah. Was that all meant to be? Did they actually say it was the Royal Witch Duke that they're at? Because I assume that's what that was.
Tell you who definitely is a character in Marvel Comics, and that's Charles Darwin. He's in it quite a lot.
It seemed like Essex and his missus. Had it pretty sweet before he started experimenting on her. Like, looked like they had a nice house, lived in London.
But also, she was obviously sick. But it did seem like he was curing her. So if he hadn't have made himself scary and white,
was he curing her, or was he?
Do you reckon he was killing her?
Well,
making her like mutant.
What's that? Is that Munchausen syndrome? What's that? Does that make sense there?
Let us know in the slacks.
What's that? What is
Munchausen by proxy? Is that what it is? Something like that?
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Anyway, I thought it was quite cool. Cool little episode. I enjoyed it.
I'd like to point out the fact that I really like that because it was set in London and the cops were wearing, classic British police hats, that they slipped straight into classic British police buffoonery by falling over each other. And they were like, despite everyone having posh accents, all the police were just full geezers. Oi, you! Come back here!
Just blowing on their whistles.
Yeah. I've got an appointment for some bacon, eggs, and beans.
One to go, boys.
Yeah, let's get into it. This episode's good. I wrote a lot about the synopsis for this episode.
I just wrote a lot.
So it starts with a mutant human relations summit, and our old mate Henry Peter Gyrich is back, and he attacks and cripples Professor X by disrupting his mutant powers or something. And the X-Men, along with Moira McTaggart, try to save Xavier, but they can't do it, and he's dying. And so Cyclops, Wolverine, and Jean, and I quite enjoyed that little team up. Infiltrate Genosha, which at this point has been run by Magneto, which is mint. It's definitely from the comics. To tell Magneto is dying. Obviously, they have a little fight first, though, because that's what they do. At this point, Magneto is planning to take over the world with a mutant army because all hope is lost or something. But then he puts his assault on hold to go and pay his respects to Charles. And using Magneto's power of magnetism to enhance the electromagnetic pulses in Professor X's mind, they send a message to the Shi'ar direct to Lilandra, because maybe their science can help him. And is she coming? Is she not? I don't know. At least time for Professor X to say a final farewell to every member of the X-Men, which is bloody brilliant.
Yes.
And then, it did work, and Lilandra turns up, and she's like, yeah, we can save him, but he's going to have to come with us. That's my synopsis of the episode. Yours, please.
Good to see Chuck get all his biddies in the finale.
It was? All his biddies.
Yeah, Lilandra. They're all coming back.
And Moira.
I thought it was great. They pulled out all the stops. They got Magneto, Lilandra, Morph, Genosha, Moira, and Gyrich all back.
Did you love when we were seeing shots of the mutants rising up, and there was like spray paint on all sorts of walls, and one of them said, Viva Magneto.
Magneto is my favourite, apart from Meg.
He didn't seem like he was running Genosha all that well. Like all of his army sleeping on the ground. Like some of them had blankets, but not all of them. Like with all his, he can just go and rob a bank and stuff, can't he?
That's a great speech, Magneto. But we need to talk to you a little bit about Genosha's infrastructure.
You're up here in this sweet apartment with a great view of all the army sleeping on the ground.
Magneto fired me up with that speech, and it's a hot take, but I think if I was a mutant, I'd be with Magneto.
This is the thing, right? Like, they built giant robots to kill them. Like, I would live in fear. Like, what else do you do? I quite enjoyed Sunfire, who was the Japanese mutant who was super fired up. But yeah, like, you're right. Like, I believe history will say Magneto was right.
Yeah, there's obviously lots and lots of mutants in the world, and speaking of natural selection, they're clearly better than the humans. Just fucking smash them.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I'm with
I
you.
liked how Beast had ditched his old trench coat and got a new trench coat that looked like a smoking jacket, and coupled it with a nice skivvy / turtleneck. When they were is that their civvies when they're in their civvies at the start?
Civvies. I'm speaking of Beast. The reporter who's doing the news report, Trish Tilby, was Beast X from the 80s.
Wow.
The Magneto Professor exchange is very, very good. And that whole scene, the big farewell sesh, the things he says to everyone, well, nearly everyone, is actually like I can't remember what he says to Gambit. Whatever he says to Gambit is actually like.
Okay, so I had a little game for you guys, but it just segue into it nicely. Who has the best goodbye? Is it Morph, Gambit, Jubilee, Storm, Meg, Rogue, Jean, Beast? Does Beast even get a goodbye?
I can't remember Beast.
Or Cyclops? Beast, turns. Beast almost nudges him into it. He's like, "Is there anything you would like me to do, Professor?"
Cyclops is kind of the same because he's last. And he kind of walks over and holds his hand. So I better say something about. But to be fair, the one he says for One Eye is pretty good about being a father, and it's quite sweet.
Pat, what do you reckon? What's your favourite?
I watched this late last night, but from memory, I'd go Morph because of his arc throughout. He got killed off early on, in front of his best mate Meg, and then he got manipulated to be a bad guy. Now he's back, and he was really carving up in the finale, getting heaps of praise from everyone.
For the record,
so good for him.
I put next to Morph. Don't think Morph deserves to be there.
Oh,
I think they called him in because they needed him to do that speech on TV to make people think the professor was okay.
He's just a bit character though in this, and all those other people are in it. Every season, a lot of episodes. He's in about 8 episodes.
Well, the good news is I found the script for this episode.
How often must a scoundrel prove himself?
Is this Gambit?
To be a hero before he believes it himself. That was really good.
Meg's
was good too. I thought actually all of them were really good. Morph, Jubilee, but all Jeans wasn't great either.
What was Jeans? First in my heart. Your courage allowed you to see things no other human ever has. You remain the same innocent child I met so very long ago. I think he's got a bit of a thing there.
But Meg's was great. Made Meg cry. Storm's was really good.
Wolverine, loner, you have found a family. Wild savage, you have found dignity. Cynic, you have found faith. Also, Rogues was real good.
Mm-hmm.
Unable to touch, yet look around you. You will find you have touched us all.
What is Beast? How does Beast thing go?
I'm trying to find it. So he starts with Morph. Morph, it's nice to see you home. In facing your fears, you have proven yourself truly an X-Men. Gambit, Jubilee, you're the future. Storm, beautiful, mighty as a hurricane, gentle as the rain. Wolverine, Rogue, Jean.
We'll cut this bit out.
Nah, keep it in there. The friend thou hast. He quotes something to him. That's right. The friends thou hast and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hooks of steel. I don't know what that's from.
Neither. Should have looked it up.
I did like the Scott one. Were I your father, I would tell you that no truer son could ever be. I'm proud.
Yeah, it was nice. We're done.
Yep, we did it.
What are you going to miss?
Who, me?
Both of you. It's been your
favorite. You go first, Sean.
What am I going to miss? I'm going to miss talking about it.
Yeah, this is fun.
I'm not going to miss forcing myself to watch them in bed at 10:30.
Yeah, I won't miss that part. What about you, Sam? This was your first watch through.
Well, first,
What did you
actually,
enjoy?
real exposure to the X-Men. Never
Yeah.
read the comics, never watched a movie. And honestly, it's fantastic. Really, really great. It did, obviously, I felt like it tailed off pretty much every single season. I think the season 1 was the best. I know a lot of critics like season 3 because of the Phoenix saga in that season. Or is it the Dark Phoenix
It's
saga?
both.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I would have said that before rewatching this because I thought that Phoenix stuff was great, but it pales in comparison to season 1. Season 1 is like, oh, good.
Well, there's some animation stuff obviously going on, but just like in terms of actually being engaged with the content, that's probably was the best. I will forever love Wolverine. And
That's man.
Yeah, and you can't talk me down otherwise.
It's interesting on that Wolverine was obviously popular in the comics as well. He was the first X-Man to get a solo series. But after this, he is everywhere. He's an Avenger. He's got his own series. He's an X-Men. He's an X-Force. Like, there are times during Marvel's history where Wolverine's in like 5 different comics running at the same time.
That's now. He's still doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna miss talking about the floaty chairs. I'm gonna miss talking about Bad Guy Bar. I'm gonna miss talking about how smell powers are the best power you can have, and definitely watching Sean's face while me and Sam badmouth One Eye.
I think we've talked him round.
Yeah, you stopped defending him after a while.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't think I'd ever see you stop defending.
I'll say this.
Cyclops.
I'll say this. He sucks in this series, but he's still a good character. Read a comic,
That's fair.
Sam.
Yeah.
Look, and I think part of the reason I don't like him is because he's the opposite of Meg.
Mm.
And I love Meg.
And I think I said this in episode 1. When me, Rory, and Todd were playing X-Men after watching the first episode and thinking this is the coolest thing we've ever seen, and Rory is the oldest, got to choose who'd be who. He chose Meg. He grabbed 6 butter knives. He grabbed a deck of cards, and he gave them to me and said, "You can be Gambit. He's second coolest." And then he said, "Todd, you can just run around and go bzzz."
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm really glad it's over, to be honest. Just as you said, just like making yourself watch them. I won't watch them again, but I will dive myself into a bit of X-Men lore.
I think we'll let the dust settle for a while. In a couple of months, we'll watch the Spider-Man animated series crossover episodes with the X-Men.
I thought you were going to say, isn't there X-Men that it's carrying on?
97.
Yeah.
I'd be more keen to watch that.
Well, we will watch that, but I don't know. I don't even know when that's coming out. But yeah, I think we can wrap things up. It's been a while.
Do it for your last time, guys. Can you remember it?
Who starts, me or you, Pax? I remember it.
You just cut and paste the last time we did it. What do I say?
Mission accomplished, buddy.
Let's go home.